We got another minute to go here and we'll get started.
Sounds good.
So these training sessions that we have uh, are done per jurisdiction of licensing. The first week, the first Thursday of the month is always the Virginia. The second Thursday is usually Maryland or DC. Can't remember which one it is, Maryland or DC. The third Thursday is the opposite one, and then the fourth Thursday is West Virginia. Those are the jurisdictions. We always have these. These are required by the brokerage, by the real estate commission that we have these trainings, and it's required for agents to participate in them in order to keep ourselves out of trouble. And this is one of those things where a it's never a problem until it becomes a problem. You're going to always, Ali, you're going to hear me saying that many, many times over and over and over again. And It's never a problem until it's a problem. Is that, sometimes we get complacent in our business in thinking that, well, I've never had a problem with, XYZ legal requirement before, so I don't need to bother with it. Well, sometimes some of those issues only pop up when somebody complains about something. And if somebody files a complaint against you, either through the local association of realtors or through the real estate commission or to some other entity, then it becomes a legal problem that we have to defend ourselves with, and that's where we get in trouble, and that's where it begins to cost us money. So my goal with these trainings is to keep us all out of trouble, because if you guys get in trouble, I also get in trouble because of whatever it is that you did or didn't do, and so does Andrew and the company. So if we can keep all of that to a minimum, that's the goal. All right, this is February 2025. The broker training for Virginia, required broker training for Virginia, and let's dive into it. So, E&O Pearl is the service provider that we use for our E&O provider, and they produce a lot of these materials that we use for trainings. And these are real live cases that have been modified. The facts have been modified to eliminate the personal details of whoever this issue was really truly about, and they modify these and then they present them so that we can teach you these issues so that we can keep ourselves out of trouble. We're going to have this brief discussion. We're going to read through it and then have a discussion about the topics addressed, and we'll go through it from there. All right, so the situation: a residential homeowner contacted a real estate agent to list and sell their property. The real estate agent went to the town hall to research the amount of annual property taxes in order to enter the information in the agency's marketing brochure and in the region's multiple listing service. The real estate agent entered the wrong property tax information in both the marketing brochure and the MLS. The real estate agent interpreted the property tax figure incorrectly, thinking that it was the amount for the entire year, when in fact it was actually the amount for just 6 months. And for Ali, that's the way most of our jurisdictions do it here locally, is there's a billing amount for 6 months, and then you have to double that to get the amount for the total year. So that was the scenario. And the result, whoops, no, not that. The result was the listing agent found the listing the real estate agent found a buyer for the property who entered into the purchase agreement in part based on her understanding that the advertised property taxes were correct. At the closing, the buyer discovered that the taxes were 2 times the amount advertised, because it was only the 6 months amount. The buyer decided to proceed with the purchase anyway, but then sued the sellers and the real estate agent, alleging intentional and neglect misrepresentation, claiming they owed her the difference multiplied by the length of her 30-year mortgage commitment. That's a lot of money. The sellers then filed a counterclaim against the real estate agent. So this agent had two lawsuits that they had to be at battle with, not just one. The sellers then filed a counterclaim against the real estate agent and the broker, alleging failure to properly supervise the agent. The case was settled after the initial investigation confirmed that the real estate agent did, in fact, transfer the information incorrectly from the town's tax records. The defendants incurred significant legal fees negotiating the true amount of damages. It was the defendant's position that the damages should be based on the average length of the home ownership, not the length of a mortgage commitment. Compounding the problem, the local real estate board also took disciplinary actions against the agent. So this agent had two lawsuits, one from a buyer, one from a seller, and a disciplinary action from the Association of Realtors, and a code of there's essentially code of ethics issues involved there. So they fought this on three fronts, and that's where the E&O insurance kicked in to provide that. So in order to prevent this situation, the simple errors in transferring tax record information into the MLS and advertising material can result in the likelihood of litigation for real estate professionals. A mistake on the annual taxes of a property may create an exposure for the duration of the buyer's ownership. If this real estate firm had employed a system to accurately verify information obtained by its agents and its sellers, it may have been able to avoid litigation and compromise its reputation in the community. So one thing that we do have to our advantage is that Bright MLS auto-populates the tax information for us. And we presume that the information that Bright MLS is correct, and there are statements that we have in our agreements and in the use of Bright MLS, in that it's presumed to be accurate information, but it always needs to be verified by the clients. So apparently, in this particular jurisdiction that they offered, that this scenario evolved in, that wasn't a factor. They did not have that feature. So I'd like you to just take this scenario and apply it to anything that could be an error of your actions, and obviously this was not an intentional mistake, but it's an example to show that this could be any kind of factual information that you're disclosing like that. We always have to make sure that we do the best that we can and we exercise all of our due diligence to make sure that the data that we're putting out is accurate and correct. The next issue might not be taxes. It might be some other issue. It might be square footage. And we get into that debate a lot of times about square footage, where the MLS from a previous listing might show one number. The tax record might show another number for the square footage. We might have an appraisal that shows another number for the square footage. And which one do you use? So that's always a good conversation and a really good discussion point to make sure that you are basing your stuff and sourcing your information, and that you can always point to and say the tax basis was the square footage, for example. If I'm going to use the square footage of the tax record, then I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I state that and as a clear example, to say that that's where we got this number from, or we got it from an appraisal, or we got it from some other aspect.
Morning.
So, if anybody has any thoughts on this discussion, I'll open up the floor to have anybody discuss and ask any questions or talk about it.
Okay, I'll mention something that I've done in Loudoun County. A lot of times I list homes where I was around when the builders were actually building the homes. I have the original brochures. I know how different sizes of the homes related to each other, and I'll see that the builder submitted maybe the wrong model number into the county and thus then it has the wrong square footage. And sometimes the people got options where they had an additional sunroom put on, just all different things. Or the builder had a lot of different options for adding on stuff, but then didn't put it into whatever information they gave the county. So I let the people know they need to call the county and have them reassess their property and come out and measure. And I've done that a few times, and we've gotten, much higher numbers, which then, as agents are looking, they can see, yeah, this is why this home is priced this high, because it's actually bigger than what the tax record originally said. So that's worked pretty well, but you do need to have, 3, 4 weeks time to get that done.
Also, whenever I'm putting together any marketing materials, I always make sure that I have disclaimers in terms of the accuracy of the information and that people should be performing their due diligence when looking, to always have disclaimers on any marketing materials. And as far as this particular instance, I wonder where the lender factored in all of this, because the lender would have given an estimate sheet to the buyer, which should have had the most accurate tax numbers. But I know you're using this as a blanket example. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. We just have to be careful. I would always make a statement in your MLS printout. If you're the listing agent, I'd make a short statement, just repeating the phrase that Bright MLS uses. The tax data used for this property is presumed to be accurate, but needs to be verified. And so I would just needs to be verified by the buyer. I would
Right.
just go
Always a
ahead and
disclaimer.
make a statement like that always. When you're the buyer's agent, I would similarly make a statement like that and put it in writing in an email to your buyer so that you have that documentation in hand to defend yourself should this issue ever come up.
Along those lines of data, the tax records often, maybe if there wasn't a permit, they're not updated on square footage. And so we
Yeah,
run into this a lot now that we're using Matterport to create floor plans. And those Matterport floor plans often differ from the square footage in the tax records.
that's
And
true.
so you got to be really careful. Like Terry said, put a disclaimer on the floor plan you get from someone like Matterport. Put your own disclaimer that says, seller has not verified these numbers. You should verify them. They come from a Matterport measurement, something like that.
Yeah,
And I've started to refrain from putting those room measurements in the MLS as
yeah,
well, and just make the floor plan available with a disclaimer and stay away from
yeah.
all that.
Yeah, I don't make the room measurements either for that exact reason. That's an opportunity begging for a lawsuit. Yeah.
I've had two incidences where the tax record was accurate as at the time of contract, but at the point of sale, two different properties had been in jurisdictions where um, the tax amount had been grandfathered, and as soon as it changed hands, the tax amount changed.
Oh, you're
Um,
talking about the tax, the dollar amount.
the
Yeah,
dollar amount.
yeah.
And
There's,
that
that's another point,
and that was a
particularly
big deal.
for properties that have been owned by the current owner for many, many, many years. And especially in some jurisdictions where there are tax breaks for veterans, there are tax breaks for senior citizens.
Mhm.
And so the tax basis of a senior citizen that's been in the property for a
40
gazillion years,
years. Yeah,
yeah, is going to be a lot different than what the new buyer is going to pay in property taxes when the property gets reassessed after the sale.
right.
So that's a very good point, Mel. Yep. Any other questions, comments? All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us, and we will let's hit the streets and go make some money.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Dan.
righty. Take care.